Quick disclaimer, there will be no Gen AI in this talk. One. All right, so I'm Anant Shrivastava. The talk is about SBoM. It's a buzzword that a lot of people are using. What I wanted to focus on was what is it, where it was, what it could be in the future. So this is not a hands side of SBoM, what we can do with this particular buzzword in the coming world. All right, so I am chief researcher at 𝗙𝗂𝗕𝗲𝗁. When you run your own company, you have a fun opportunity to name whatever title you want. So I named myself as chief researcher. About 15 to 17 years of corporate experience, training, as well as the hands-on stuff from ranging to developer, to administrator, to InfoSec professional. I've been through all phases of IT world, you can say. I've been a speaker and trainer at a bunch of different conferences ranging from Black Hat to DEF CON to local conferences like BSides Bangalore or BSides Goa to local Indian conferences like 𝗘𝘃𝗁𝗂𝗿𝗲. I also run a bunch of open projects. 𝗏𝗏𝐷𝑉gilant is a project which I started because I wanted to learn how to do code review. So I created a project, I started finding bugs and disclosing it. A couple of friends joined me. Prajal is also probably here or in the conference. We both started out this project and we hunted bugs on WordPress platform. The Hacking Archives of India is another project that I started because I realized people are not aware of how many Indian people are right now sort of in public limelight around hacking or information security. So we collect all the professionals who are presenting in any international conference and we list all of them at one page. The current count on that page is about 900 plus individuals with about 1500 plus talks listed on that page. Demo platform is a project that I run around Android security. I am mostly available on all social media channels with the handle Anant Shri because by the time I became active on internet, Anant was a very known name, so I had to pick up something else. All right, so straight to the topic, software bill of material is in short an itemized list of ingredients. Just like when we do cooking, there is a recipe listed, like you need 10 grams of salt or X number of leaves for, is this better? Thank you. All right, so in terms of software world, the ingredient list contains the name of the software, the version of the software, the dependencies that you're using, every component that you have, which helps you make the product. Except your own source code, what are the other components of your software? Those are what you list in an SBoM. Now, there is a myth that comes with this. People believe that SBoM is for open source components. No, it is for every single component that you have. Even if you are having a set of modules which are proprietary to your own company, you make those modules, you have to list those modules as dependencies of yours. Because every single entity which is not the source code there is the component of SBoM. Now, SBoM is by definition only one level deep. So you will only list your dependencies. It's the job of your dependencies to list their dependencies. And then the whole cascading flow will go. Now, like everything else in the world, this also started with competing standards. So there is SPDX, which is the ISO standard. There is 𝗙𝗂𝗕𝗲𝗁, which is the standard supported by OWASP, and they're now trying to become like the leading standard. There used to be a standard called SWID. It was an alternative ISO specification, but somewhere they kind of fell apart. There's a link that I mentioned at the bottom. That's a comparative study between all three formats. Why one is superior to the other, that's what is listed there. All right, so this is an example of a 𝗙𝗂𝗕𝗲𝗁. So what you see on this, for you, the left-hand side represents the XML structure, or sorry, the JSON structure On the right-hand side, you can see the expanded JSON. So there's a JSON format and there's an XML format. In both formats, you can store the data. Now, this is the SPDX format. This was 𝗙𝗂𝗓𝗓𝗓, so you can see the 𝗙𝗂𝗓𝗓𝗓 symbol right at the top. Whereas this is SPDX symbol, and you can see the SPDX ID and references marked. In both the formats, effectively, you are listing the components of your environment. Now, how do you create SBoM? First, most easy option, if you are on GitHub, I'll show you that in a minute. There's a direct export SBoM option now for your code repository. You can directly create the SBoM there. If you are not on GitHub or if you want to generate something of your own, that's where you use the generation tools. So for the 𝗙𝗂𝗓𝗓𝗓 format, there is CDX gen tool, the link that I've mentioned. And for SPDX, there is SPDX generator. Now, based on my experience with these generators, they are not 100% working all the time. That's why the last option, if everything else fails, you write the XML by hand. And to be honest, I've seen people doing that. So depending on which system works, what kind of repository composition you have, what kind of language you're using, there may be support for it in the environment. There might not be a support for it in the environment. So there are a bunch of pros and cons and ifs and buts that you have to deal with. Now, in GitHub, that's where you find the export SBoM option here. It's under Insights. You go into dependency graph and you find the export SBoM option. You have to enable dependency graph in your org or repository settings. When you go into this particular section, if you have not enabled it, it'll ask you to enable, and within a minute, it'll allow you to download the SBoM. This would be SPDX format of the SBoM, not the 𝗙𝗂𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 format. Now, I'll quickly show you two simple demos. So, like I said about the insight extraction from GitHub. So you go into a project of your own, Insights, dependency graph, and you can just export the SBoM from here. The other quick tool that I wanted to show you was dependency track. Now, you can extract SBoMs, but what do you do with them? So one of the options that you have right now is you can load them into SBoM viewer tools like dependency track, which can basically load this and then give you visibility into your SBoM from a security standpoint. Now, what I've done here is I have already created two projects. And to show you a very specific feature of the project, of the tool, I have imported same SBoMs in both the projects. Some of the SBoMs are same, some of the SBoMs are different, to show you that the differences that they create. Now, once you have created the project, you can go inside and under components, this is where you upload your SBoMs. Once you've uploaded them, what it will do is it has a list of vulnerabilities and it has all the markers that it needs to identify those particular bugs. It'll create a vulnerability audit where you can see all the projects and the components that are vulnerable to a particular CVE. Now, this is the standard view everyone looks at. What you also need to be aware of is the grouped vulnerability view. What happens here is if you sort by projects, it is now showing me vulnerabilities which are common in both the projects. So if you have 500 different repositories of 500 different software stacks that you're using in your organization, load all of them up. And then you can see which of the vulnerabilities are more common among your stack. You may have one critical vulnerability, but if it is only available or only possible to exploit in a project which is running in an isolated environment, that's not your first priority. But if there is a medium or a high-level vulnerability which is visible in your public-facing infrastructure, you may want to fix that first. So the prioritization can be helped if you have this sort of data. All right, so the question that comes is, I've given you a demo of what you can do in terms of security. But is it really helping us? Is SBoM really a help, or is it becoming a hindrance? Now, anyone who has heard about this word would recognize when I say US President's executive order, that was kind of the kicker for this whole frenzy about generating SBoMs. Effectively, like the lady before me were talking about solar wind attacks and the supply chain attacks, that was kind of the trigger for the US government to issue an order which says every vendor that serves to a US government entity needs to provide the list of ingredients that are part of their software. Now, if you remember, I said SBoM is one level deep. So now if you want to create an accurate picture of the dependencies, you need to have the next levels of the SBoM, which basically means although the requirement is from the first party which is serving the US government, the requirement is actually to every single component, whatever level deep you may be, to provide an SBoM. This is the kicker point which started the whole SBoM frenzy. And people started talking about, okay, I need to generate SBoM because my upper entity would ask for it. Now, the important bit here is, and there's kind of a dig on our industry also. The IT industry only does what it is asked to do. The IT industry was asked to write SBoM, create SBoM. They only created SBoM. Every single system that is there is focused on creating SBoM. No one wants to talk about how do you process SBoM, how do you display SBoM, how do you aggregate SBoM, all the other aspects, no one wants to focus on because that's not what is asked for. The ask is to create SBoM. That's the checkbox that we want to mark. So we want to mark that checkbox and move on. Now, industry has started asking questions. So I added an image on the side. That's a famous InfoSec person named as Tanya. She runs a podcast and bunch of things named 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗃. She made a video, which was a very thought-provoking video, where a client came to her saying, hey, we are creating these SBoMs by putting a lot of effort around generating the right format and doing all the right things. But none of our clients is actually asking for these SBoMs. So why are we wasting our time developing these SBoMs or creating these SBoMs? And why are we not spending time fixing the bugs? Why should I do the effort of creating SBoM? Which is a valid question. There is a valid question around it. There are a bunch of other questions that are coming up around SBoM. Why should I disclose this information? I will only disclose this information to someone who has done an NDA with me. Or I don't need SBoM because I'm not selling to US government. Because that's the mandate that came out. If I am not selling to USA, why do I need it? Or should I spend time fixing the bug? These are some digs that I would take on software industry. Software industry, 10 minutes? Software industry fixes problems that are created by software industry. That's kind of the way the flow works. To give you an idea, we wanted faster systems. We wanted faster software builds. So we wanted automation. That's how the release cycle is now quick. Release cycle is quick. That means we have less wait time for features. Now we want more features. When we want more features, we don't want to waste time on upgrading dependencies so that we are sure about the whole test and regressions. If I want more feature done faster, I would prefer picking an open source software that has the feature and pull back in instead of creating my own. Now, it is impossible to segregate features and bug fixes. People are creating one branch, and that's the release branch, that's the test branch. They would tag it, that's the release. We are not maintaining multiple branches. So the concept of long-term stable releases and everything is not a good concept now. That caused problems because we were using a lot of components now. So vulnerability notifications became a problem. Vulnerability became a problem. We built dependencies kind of systems, which create automatic pull requests. So what you see at the bottom is the number of pull requests that 𝗘𝗃𝗲𝗏 has created on GitHub platform. So this is, I think, December last year. So this is a bit less number. There'll be a far more bigger number now. So SBoM can help you. SBoM can help you in identifying incorrect use of softwares. What could be the fix is something that you have to think about. It can help you with one problem, and that one problem is inventory. Now the problem is, InfoSec world has never operated with inventory. Anyone here from InfoSec community who would say that they have had the luxury of having an up-to-date inventory to deal with? No one would agree on that. That's the problem. We've never faced a scenario where we have everything in our hands. So we don't know what to do. Now it's a problem for us. Like someone is giving us the inventory. I have no clue what to do with it. So consequences are twofold. And this is the reason why you would find SBoM being pushed back. On one side, practitioners now have more visibility into the system. I can very quickly go and search for, let's say, a log4j kind of incidents happens. It'll be easier for me to look at all the SBoMs, figure out these softwares have log4j problem, and I can just start fixing those things. Tool will notify. Whereas for the corporates, they have to expose that, hey, you know what? In my software, I've not updated this dependency for last 10 years because it's working. They don't want that. Now, the problem here is, if we as security professionals or if we as software industry practitioners don't take any action now, the consequence of this would be SBoM would be another feature or a format that came into light, became a buzzword, and then died out. And we would again be back into the world of inventory-less systems and just deal with it. So what can we do? So there is a bunch of tooling that already exists. There is CycloneDX that I talked about. There is Google SLSA that is going on. There is SPDX, SafeDep. I don't have enough time to talk about all of them, so I'm just going to list them here. There are security efforts that are going on. There is VDR and VEX, which are companions to SBoM. VDR would allow you to talk about all the vulnerabilities that you received and you fixed. VEX is going to allow you to talk about all the bugs that may exist in your dependencies, but you are not vulnerable to them because maybe you're not using that feature. Now, there are a bunch of different bombs that people are creating, not the BOMB, but BOM. Hardware bill of material, machine learning bill of material, cryptography, manufacturing, operating, there's a bunch of things going on and more. Like, I think there's Kubernetes bill of material also coming into picture. There's cryptographic bill of material coming into picture. So what we can do? The important bit that everyone, when talking about security, misses, security is a cost center. We can have a debate about it. We are cost center. We are the people who lose money for the company. So how do we make a feature which is for the organization, which is going to lose money for the system, make that feature usable for the side which actually makes money? So if SBoM is usable to developers, if SBoM is usable to finance, HR, or other systems, then it has more value than SBoM, which is only usable to security teams. Now, beyond security teams, there is developers, there's acquisition and merger, there's compliance, there's risk management, bunch of different places where you can use. Now, I am going to list a few usage that I have thought about. It's open area. If you think about more usage, come and talk to me about them, or on social media, as I've raised a question about this, you can respond to that. We can have the conversation around it. I am looking for more options. For a developer, so this was a conversation I was having with my brother, who's a developer in an organization, a Java developer. He is right now tasked to reduce technical debt. And the task that he's actually working on is, hey, let me see all the projects that we are working on. What are the dependencies we are using? If there's a dependency which is less commonly used, I will replace it with, say, an Apache managed dependency. which is so much easier if I have SBoM available with me. I don't have to dig into everything. I can see it in one place, and I can extract out, okay, this dependency used these many places, replace it. Or this dependency is what is most commonly used in my environment. So there's an organization that I was assessing, 5 different applications, 5 different authentication plugins used while all coded in the same language. So they were having SSO implementation, but all 5 of the application teams picked a different plugin to introduce SSO features. Instead, if they would have used one single plugin, if a bug came in that one plugin, they would have focused and they would have fixed that problem. Now their focus is spread around 5 different plugins. So reducing dependency scatter, consolidating your own efforts, simplifying package selection in case of a newer project, all of this comes under developer purview. For say an acquisition and merger, so this is a very interesting topic, a controversial topic, but here's the thing. If I want to buy a company, and if I get to know that there are so many holes in the company, I would pay less money for the company and still buy that company. But that whole part about finding that holes which allow me to drop the cost is something that SBoM can do for you. Alternatively, you are okay buying the company. Now you need to factor in the cost of the efforts that you'll have to take to merge the organizations. How many of you have ever worked in a scenario where your organization bought another company and you're merging the companies together? Have you had peaceful sleep for maybe a month or 2 while the merger was going on, ever? Because when you're merging 2 different tech stacks, you are dealing with complications that are going to come up. If you are aware of it beforehand, you can make some calls about it. It's a problem that you're going to face, you would be prepared for it. That's another action that can be done via the help of SBoMs. Compliance. You acquired a company and you integrated their API, and then you realized they released the API on GPL3 license. Anyone here who's familiar, what would happen if that is the scenario? So if your associated dependency is a GPL3 library and you have directly code level integrated with it, you are legally required to open source your code to all the users of your application, which is something you may not want to do. But having this information is, again, this information is part of SBoM. It can help you in this factor also. Risk management, more of a cost effort factor. Do I want to take that risk? If I am buying a product from a company, or or rather not an acquisition, but I am installing a SaaS software in my environment, do I really want to install that SaaS software and take up all those dependencies? Or if I know that I need to implement this because my CEO has said that you have to implement it, there are some orders which are non-negotiable. You have to do it. Do you then really want to integrate your SSO on that portal, which you know is using 10-year-old libraries? That's a decision call that you can make. So what's needed? We need better tooling. We need collaboration and the whole interaction between the security team versus the other teams. Make them part of the solution, help them figure out that there is potential in this technology and this is useful technology for everyone. So last slide. I believe SBoM is good for us. There is definitely a benefit in the software industry. It'll help the overall growth. Inertia, the Newton's law is there. You'll have to overcome it. We are at that point where we can help overcoming that inertia and making some impact. That's the end of my talk. Thanks for listening. That's the email address, website address, and the name.
Okay, thank you so much, Anant. I think you had kept the audience engrossed throughout your session, and we were correlating with whatever you were telling. I was correlating. In fact, me and one of my colleagues, when you mentioned log4j, that entire night when that 0-day vulnerability came out, from night 9 p.m. till morning 4 a.m., we were writing rules. All right. So we get what SBoM can do. Thank you so much for this. Can we have a round of applause for Anand? Anand, please come.